Good afternoon, adventurers! That's right, it's Friday, so you know what that means. It's John's Dungeon Corner at the Collective in Altamont Springs, Florida. It's beautiful, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. So Friday's here again. Ooh, and we just got done with National RPG Day. And it was awesome. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many people were here. We ran the Goblin Raid, and it was hilarious. I would tell you real quick, I got to tell you this. So each group had a sorcerer in it, right? So one sorcerer, and I'm not going to sit there and say who was playing it, but Jason knows who I'm talking about. Actually, his name was James. I can't fake it. James knows exactly who I'm talking about. And so they're fighting goblins, right? And he decides, oh, you know what we're doing? He turns to the barbarian, and he looks at the cleric and says, by the way, I hope you guys roll well, as he rolls a fireball and hits them, takes down one of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? But hey, whatever. Then the other group had 3 players. One was a sorcerer, fighter, and a paladin. And happy Friday, Sarah. And so what happens? The sorcerer there, she takes and hits it at point blank range. I mean, ground zero. Fireball! Wham! Knocks out the fighter. It was hilarious. And it's her brother. And it was a great group because it was the brother, sister, and the grandmother. They were teaching the grandmother how to play for the first time, and that's what she came up with. A fireball at ground zero. You just gotta love that stuff. Who says you can't have a good time and fry people as you do it? Anyway, but they did kill the goblins, so that's okay. All right, so today. Okay, so today we're going to talk about painting. And of course, you know what painting equals Fiona's here, but I'm not going to bring her out yet. I'm going to let her stand in the wings. I want to talk about this stuff real quick that's up here. All right, so Fiona's going to work on dry brushing and washing a little bit. Anyway, I don't know, dry brushing for sure. And she's going to talk about brushes, okay? And I kind of want to, on the left side, I like this. Take a look at this brush. It's flat, right? These are flat brushes. These are dry brushing brushes. There we go. And sometimes you can even get them to where they got little slants on them, diagonals, right? So you can get in certain places. And they come in all shapes and sizes, see? That's kind of why I'm going to throw this at you now. So when she talks about it, you know what she's talking about, right? Because you've seen it. And I've held it. And I know what's going on with that. All right, so that's cool. That's the brushes. Now, she's going to talk about paints. But look, I wanted to show you some paints. These are really cool. These are the Vallejo paints. Look how bright that is. That's a fluorescent pink. You probably can't see it as well. This is actually becoming one of my favorites. It's the Duncan Rhodes Two Thin Coats. All right. This is really cool. I'm painting some of my goblins with it. What else would I be painting, right? Goblins, baby. And these are really cool. And you guys, I've told you, Fiona does airbrushing. And these are nice, the airbrush paints by Army Painter. Citadel Workshop paints come in a little pot. Okay, they got some really cool colors. They got many colors and washes and inks too. And then, of course, let me not forget, these are actually kind of neat. These are the prismatic paints by D&D. They're actually kind of cool. They go on really nice. Yeah. I've tried them. I've been trying all these different paints just to, not like I don't have enough paints, but they go on really nice and smooth. But I'm going to tell you, just for me, I really like the Duncan Rhodes paints, the 2 Thin Coats. Literally 2 thin coats. But anyway, without any further ado, I'm not going to really... Oh, one last thing. We got all these neat paint sets here. They come as this... You can buy them individually. You can buy them in paint sets. You can buy them in the mega paint set. This is like... Now, here's the crazy part. What I'm showing you... I got to show you this up front before I bring Fiona up here. I got to show you this because this is something that's brand new. Look at this. This isn't just a complete set of paints. This is a complete set of speed paints. When I remember Fiona talking about this, and I've kind of talked about this a little bit. This is amazing. This is a complete paint set. I mean, this is crazy. There's even a speed paint medium in here. So that's something to think about. Just a couple of little updates. Well, actually, come on up, Fiona. Let's take you out of the wings. Get on up here. We can talk a little bit before you start getting into it. All right, so here's Fiona again.
Hey, nice to see you all again.
All right, so now since last time, no, let's not talk about painting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's coming up. So this 4th of July, I'm going to give you kind of a general thing, is a special summer sale day here at the Collective. And it's going to be amazing. They're going to be open till 4 o'clock that day. 4 o'clock on the 4th. Get it? Nice. And it's going to be cool because you can buy any 3 items and get the 4th one, 4th of July, for free. Now, you can't buy 4 of the same thing. So in other words, I can't buy 4. What is that? What color is that?
Oh, this is a fluoro.
Okay, so I can't buy 4 fluorals, but I can buy 4 different paints. So I would buy 3 and get 1 for free and get this one free. Okay, so that's what that means. You can buy 4 paints. You can buy a brush and 3 paints. And what will happen is the lowest priced item, will be free. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, that's unbelievable. So that's what's happening Friday. But there's some really cool news. I'm going to let Fiona tell you about her Saturday and Sunday coming up.
So I'm here tomorrow in the store, 10 a.m. until 2, and I will be going over dry brushing in person because there's something that's been gaining a lot of traction in the painting communities that's called a dry palette. And basically you can buy these from several places. Online sell them, and it's basically a texture plate so that you can brush off extra paint to be doing dry brushing. You can prime it in black or you can prime it in white. And this one, I have different kinds of textures, and unfortunately it's flaring a little there.
Let's see, maybe I can.
There we go. You can see I've got bricks, I've got bark, I've got a fancy lace pattern so that I can try out different patterns of layering to see how it would look. And then I have my dry brush palette on the other side. So absolutely, I'll be talking about that more tomorrow.
That looks pretty cool. That's something new, huh?
Yes. It's gaining a lot of traction in painting because people have felt that
dry brush, a paper towel.
The paper towel to take the paint off takes too much of the liquid out of the paint and you don't get a good result. So that's why, I'm going to talk about the dry palette, and with the paints that we have here in store, they're all really awesome. And the prismatic paints here, the D&D brand, that is a collaboration with Vallejo. So you will get Vallejo type paints in these little pots, but they're a slightly different formulation from the Vallejo standard to meet what D&D wanted to have as an effect. With the 2 thin coats, the Duncan Rhodes, absolutely outstanding paints.
Love that stuff.
But the thing that I will recommend endlessly in that line is the washes, because the washes from Duncan Rhodes, while they're very liquid, they will stay where you put them, and you can layer them.
So let's talk about that real quick.
Yep.
So before we get into it, let's talk about the wash thing where you put it.
Yes. Most washes are very, very liquid, and they're designed to flow into the crevices, and they can pool, they can be a little messy. So what Duncan Rhodes did was he was like, we have the wash, but I don't want it to run. I want it to stay where you put it. And it's a thin layer of a wash, and then you can layer it up for how dark you want it to be. And I think that is a real innovation.
That's ingenious. I
in
love
the
that
concept of washes, because sometimes you want to do the wash on the face, but you don't want it to run into the beard.
Exactly, yes. And that has been a problem I've had.
Yes. So the Duncan Rhodes paints, they have great coverage. They don't have transparency, but they're not as opaque as some, simply because they're designed to be 2 thin coats.
And that really is true. 2 thin coats is all it takes. Great job, Duncan. Shout out to you.
Yes. Now, with the airbrush paints from Army Painter and any of the other brands, you can actually use those as a standard paint if you are wanting to use that as like a wash or to give an effect. So you don't have to specifically use it only for airbrushing. Now, the Army Painter great big set, that's awesome. It's their 2.0 formulation.
What's that?
The first set of
which I have.
Yep. Started out with 24 paints and the medium.
Yes.
And it had a certain formulation. Well, there was a lot of back and forth with users, and they went, okay, let's build on what feedback we've gotten from the public.
Ooh, that's a smart company right there.
Yeah.
They listened.
Now, starting out with the 24 colors, this one is 90 colors.
How many?
90.
What?
90.
90 from 24 to 90?
Yep. And it's the new formulation.
And
it still has the same properties, but it's not quite as reactive. And they have expanded the range of colors dramatically.
So not as reactive. What does that mean?
It means that you can put stuff over the top of it and it's not going to pull that color off.
Oh, I remember you saying about that to make sure that it was dry.
Yep.
Before you sat there and went over. I remember that from the last time. So
now,
see, they heard.
They heard, and they have redone the formulation.
Awesome.
Now, where the majority of the colors, the standard colors, are what they call a tritone. So you get the highlight, you get the mid-tone, and then you get the low light. The metallics are what they call a duotone. Because they've put the metallic into it,
Sure.
They can't make that the tritone, but they have done the best they could.
But they do look good. I've seen somebody use the metallic.
Good. I mean, on this model here, this little bit of red here.
That's red? Oh, that is neat.
That is.
I gotta get my glasses. That's what the problem is.
That is the metallic from the new Army Painter metallic speed paint.
See, it doesn't do it justice until you see it in person. I mean, it looks good up on the screen from what I see, but that looks awesome in person.
And what this has done is it's left brightness on the upper sections, but settled into the crevices with the exact same color.
Beautiful.
So it looks good.
It does. You got to come and see. Hey, if you come tomorrow, don't forget tomorrow she will be here doing dry brushing. You can look at that pig. Okay, so, and the other day. So tomorrow you're going to be doing dry brushing.
Yes, and then the second Sunday of the month. So I'm
the 9th.
This weekend and next weekend on the 9th, and 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Ooh.
I'm doing a mini painting workshop. You can come along and just paint, hang out, have fun. But we are also, if you want to have guidance, I'm here to do one-on-one with you. So that you want to relax, come and get a mini painted, and we can do it in 4 hours for you.
We did that. I've done that before. The Treant.
Yep.
And I finished up the base at home. It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
I learned some painting tips, and the Treant looks amazing. Yes. I was going to bring them, but I'm like,
Now, with the brushes.
Okay, talk about the brushes.
Yes.
Because these are specifically dry brushes.
Now, there's two types of dry brushing. Today we are talking about how to make detail pop out. Now, with your detail, I'm talking things like this, where you get all of that detail coming out and literally 30 seconds to do both sides.
Look at that.
And it looks like
Beautiful.
You spent a lot of time on that.
I like that. It looks really good.
So when you're using that kind of paintbrushing technique, you don't use a paintbrush with a point. You need to use one that is flat across, and they say use the largest one that you can get away with. So for that kind of detail, I used something that was about this wide. And the flat across or the angled gives you better control over what you're doing. And then if you're doing very small areas, you just go down in size. And you use whatever is most comfortable for you. Now, be aware that it is very rough on your brushes to be doing dry brushing. So you will have your bristles start to fray. So all of these would be good for different size surfaces. Now, there are brushes that are different for what is currently being called slap chop as a technique. And slap chop is where you prime in black and then you dry brush a gray, dry brush on white to hit your highlights. But that technique is very different from what we're going to cover today.
Okay, we'll talk about that one some other time.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about some other time.
Yes.
Let's tell them about what's going to happen here towards the fall. Let's drop that little bit on them. We'll tell them again, but go ahead and drop that on them.
And what one are you wanting me to cover specifically? Why don't you tell us?
Okay, that's fine. So in August, at the end of August, somewhere around August, September, we are going to have another class. Fiona's going to come out, but this one's going to be on how to make terrain and paint it.
Yes.
Remember, we had shown you some of the terrain back on one of her first shows, right? That she did that. She built the terrain from the Terrain Master set.
Yep.
The set here, the Game Master. The Game Master set. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Where you take a piece of basically foam and turn it into this piece of a wall, a room, a staircase, whatever. It's terrain that you can use for your set, and it's just awesome. So in August, she's going to do that. She's going to show you. But for now, back to dry brushing.
Yes.
Back to Fiona and dry brushing.
So,
this is too much fun.
Oh, it is. Now, I love this particular miniature. He's a frost giant because he's got all of these lovely textures.
And he's big.
Yes. I mean, that's my hand, and he's kind of like just barely fits in my hand.
Yeah, that's a fig.
Now, last time we were here, we talked about the speed paints.
Correct.
Now, this one, I hit the high points here with white. I did not do it on the back here. And then I put a speed paint over it. And you can see what a difference hitting those high points with a white before you put the speed paint on.
Interesting.
Does.
So, question. Why did you put the white on before you did the speed paint, not the opposite, right? The opposite way?
Because when you put a white under a speed paint or a contrast paint or an express paint, it makes that pop with the color.
With the color instead of being the color.
Yes.
Got it.
And then this leg was just a standard opaque blue. And you can see how
Big difference.
How different they look.
Oh, absolutely. The one with the highlight and this one, the one that you
Yep.
hit with the speed paint looks amazing. It's got depth. It's got those high points that you can see.
Yep.
It looks really good.
So with this one, I would go back and I would dry brush over the top of that
Right.
to give it the definition. I'd put a wash in there. So, but what I'm going to do today is do dry brush on here.
Okay.
So that you can get that detail popping out. And I'll do some dry brush here.
Okay, let's see that. Let's work on that. I want to see how that looks. So what are we using now? What are we using here?
We're using Army Painter Bright Gold.
Oh, okay.
Last time I was here, we spoke about the
That's
color
right.
primer.
That's
Let
right.
me give you guys the final look at these guys.
That's right. The three primers.
Yep. So let's see if I can bring them up to you all in a row.
Look at that.
So this guy primed in black,
Then in gray.
and then white.
Wow.
And all of them dry brushed with bright gold. So you can see there what a difference that primer makes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, wow. Wow. You know, it's nice how the gray one kind of blends the tones and the shadows in that of the other two.
Yes. I joke that this is the villain. This one in the middle is the average Joe. And then this is the good guy.
The shining spear, the dark
Yes.
spear, and the spear. I love it. But you're right. Look at the difference. I mean, even putting them down at a distance.
Now,
Look at that. That's like night and day.
Now, what I do want to point out.
You based that one in dark to bring it. That's interesting.
Now, with the black undercoat primer, you can see every one of those scales. It looks like I've put a line around it.
It looks good. It looks really good.
But that's the effect of the black primer. With the bright primer, you don't get that kind of definition on the scales. So it's the trade-off.
Right.
Now, what you can do is put a wash over this guy, and it will settle into those scales, so it'll give you the definition. But I wanted to keep these guys as same color, same technique, just it's the difference of the primer.
I like it. Hey, Antonio, welcome to the show. Yeah, you're never late. You arrived just in time.
All right.
we're about to start. We're working on dry brushing today, and Fiona's going to do a little bit of dry brushing, and she's going to show us the dry brushing palette that came out.
Yep.
All kinds of cool stuff that's going on. So you're just in time because she's about to break out the brush and start some magic.
Yes, and I do have a tendency to brush on myself simply because that allows me to tell what the transparency is. And here we go.
So we'll do the
I'll need my
Yes. Let's see it.
All right.
Oh, look. Hey, Christina's on from Innsbruck, Austria. Woo!
Yay!
Look at it. We're international. We are in Europe. I love it. Welcome to the show, love. Thanks for joining. Now, let's see. If it's 1:20 here, it's 7:20 there, yeah? And she's at a big meeting, so she took a few seconds just to jump on and say hi. I love it. That's so cool. Hey, Christina's over in Innsbruck, Austria. She came on the show.
Nicely done. Hey, you know.
That's a follower right there. Hey, 2 thumbs up.
That's support.
That is support. Ooh, look at that. Look at that.
So you can see it coming up, and I've done a few coats already because I want to be very careful with how I'm doing it. And
I see that instead of going left to right, you're kind of going at an angle, just kind of.
Yep, I'm just.
Love you too, love. Have fun out there.
Now, with a pointed brush, we paint like we write. When you're dry brushing to lift up the detail, that is not what you are looking to do.
Aha, good technique.
What
Gotta
you
have the
want
technique.
to do is very lightly, as if you were brushing off dust off the miniature.
Yeah, it's kind of like a. I don't know what other sound to make for it. Other
And the idea is to do it very quickly because you only have a limited
How
amount.
firm are you? How firm are you when you push down the
Very
brush?
lightly.
Very lightly. That's important. All right.
Because you're just wanting to hit those highlights. And
while she's doing it, so the highlights are any like little ridges, anything that stands up from the surface.
yep,
That you can capture as you go over. That's why you're doing it lightly, because you only want to catch the raised parts of whatever it is you're working on, whether it's a belt, a helmet, a weapon of some type, in this case an axe, boots, and you'll catch all those raised parts that are supposed to catch the light before the back part does, right? There you go. And it looks amazing. Oh, I think I developed my dry brushing to another level when I was with Fiona last month, and when we did that, because the Triumph came out amazing.
you know, I have a little issue in that this medallion has depressed slightly, so I'm not catching it. So I'm trying to be very careful to get in there and not the surrounding.
Right, because you want the black foundation to still shine through.
Yes. So because in the molding, it had depressed below the level of everything else.
Oh, that's a manufacturer defect. You know what? That's what happens when he hits you so many times with the same side of the axe.
Absolutely.
You might call it a
backstory.
defect. I'll tell you, this guy's been clobbering some people without Fiona knowing it.
So it's the same design as on here, just in miniature in this size. And that one has brought it up enough that I can just leave it there and not have to worry about it being too much.
Look at that. Okay.
You know? So let's look at
Okay,
this
before
here.
we go any further. So let's say for some reason you sneezed and you got it down in there. Now what?
What you can do at that point is get your pointy brush, get some water on there, dilute it, and get just the corner of the paper towel to soak that up, and you take it off completely. Or if it's like you've gone really smooth.
Like you went, and oh my gosh, it's all over there. You know.
And you're like, okay, I've done what I can, but it's still there. Just do another coat of your base color and go back and dry brush it again.
Ta-da! See, not a problem for all of you. I've heard that question come up. Oh my gosh, what if? Well, there's your what if answer.
Yep. And there's always an opportunity to build it into the story of the character.
Absolutely, especially like why the axe is dented. Wouldn't you like to know? You want to find out? There's a story there, I'm sure of it.
Oh, absolutely. He hit someone so hard, blah, blah, blah.
He woke up asleep. The character
Not the
woke
guy
up
in the
asleep
middle of next week.
in the middle of next week. That's messed up. That's harsh. Okay, so what happened here?
Okay, so
You got to ask about everything when she's on.
this has got some paint dried into the top, so I needed to open it up, and I do that by just putting a pin in there.
Simple.
And because I'm that extra, Reaper Paints has pokers that have like little skulls on them.
Look at that. I'm gonna have to get some of them because that's kind of cool. I use like pins, but I like that much. That looks much more elegant.
And you know, I have seen people who have done these skulls as like Halloween skulls or Day of the Dead skulls.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
Get me a little paint right there. Let's put it on right
Yep.
there.
There we go.
I see that. I'm like, wait a
See,
minute.
I get messy.
That's all right. Who doesn't, right?
All right.
All right. So let's see what we got to do here.
So
So now you're switching to silver.
I am switching to dull silver.
Oh, dull silver, excuse me.
And
Dull
this
silver.
is what's called plate mail metal,
Okay.
because I want this to look like it is chainmail.
Gotcha.
So I don't want it to be bright.
Got it.
So
It's really neat. Every little step of this is important. Never leave a step out. Now watch. Here we go. Here comes the magic.
and literally you can get that.
Look at
down
that.
there,
That's crazy.
and as quick as that, you can start seeing an effect.
Yes, you can.
And you know, this is under the arm, so it's going to be warm.
Now this time you're pulling towards you, I see.
Yes, because I'm wanting to have it
The
that
light.
it's brighter coming this way than from behind, because as he's fighting, that's where you would see him coming from.
There we go.
And again, that's feeding into the backstory.
See? Once again, there's a logic to it. You just have to kind of look for it. That looks really neat. Now I'm going to tell you, you got to come in tomorrow while she's doing the class. And if nothing else, just take a look at this miniature, because obviously I can see it on the screen. It looks amazing, but in person, even more so. Look at that.
So
Look at that. It actually looks like chainmail, gang. That looks really good.
as quickly as that, I'm done.
That's it. Dry brush done.
And that's what dry brushing can do. It can give you results almost immediately. So then you can move on to the next thing. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, you can't use a wet brush. You know, I use the same brush repeatedly. And as long as it feels cool on your hand, but there's no actual water, you're fine.
There you
Now,
go.
I'm changing up the silver, and I'm using shining silver.
Okay, why is that?
Because this one, I want this to have a silvery effect, but still have that blue underneath.
Oh, now, okay, so we've got silver chainmail, the traditional silver chainmail. Now, what is this blue chainmail underneath? Or is that like a different shirt? Or is it the same shirt?
To me, from the way that this has been put on the character, because it crosses over here in the front.
Right.
And
He's got a green skirt, I see.
Yep. And it comes down here. I'm thinking that this could be like just a fabric that he wears for warmth or to hold the chainmail close to the body.
See? There it is. And since it's your miniature, you can describe it and why.
Because I wanted to.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's got pieces of his defeated foes, and as he defeats them, he rips off their armor in pieces, and it makes a chainmail garment out of it, so that people know, look, this belonged to your buddy who died last week. Here's the guy who I killed yesterday, and the skirt I made out of your other two friends that I killed last month. Oh, that's intimidation right there.
Now, when you look at this is a herringbone pattern.
Okay.
So if I went this way,
Okay.
I would be going with the way that the pattern goes.
Oh, right.
So I would be going into where I don't want it to. So that's why with this one, I'll be going this way and this way to hit the
against
points
the grain, pretty much is what we would call that.
against the grain.
Okay. So we turn the miniature a little bit. Look at that. Boop, 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 boop.
And you can see how this is literally just hitting on the edges there. It's a very
That is neat. I'm
light
looking on the screen.
touch.
I'm looking at here. It looks amazing how that works out. Look at that.
And it is so quick. And it's literally as if you were just brushing dust off the figure.
You got to come and see it in person. I can't say that enough. She'll be here she'll be here tomorrow. Okay. Doing her normal paint day. And she's going to be working on dry brushing. And then next week, it's a class from 11 to 3, 4 hours. I mean, and what's it cost you? Time. All you have to do is put your time into it. It doesn't cost you a thing. Bring a miniature, bring your paints, get some paints, whatever.
And that's done.
Look at that. Wow.
It is all just.
Look at the difference in the lighting between the chainmail and the silvered blue chainmail.
Yep. So this was using a more matte muted silver, and this is shining silver. So
wow. Now what about this green?
The green, I have put gold over the top
I
of
was
it.
looking at that. I'm like, that looks pretty neat because it still looks green, but you can definitely tell there's another color on top of it.
And I wanted to have that not super gold because this is where he'd be getting a lot of wear on his armor.
Oh, so it looks like yeah.
So there's
so it looks a little more, as the word would be like a little dingier because it's getting beat up more.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So there's still the gold sheen.
Sure.
But yeah.
But there's parts that you could tell are like, oh yeah, he's been wearing this armor a bit.
Now this one.
Okay.
Because I want to have it be a frost giant. I want it to be frosty. And I'm using
a frost giant. Jason, welcome to the show. Yep, you almost missed it. But she's working. Look at this. Look at this, what she's about to do. Now take a good look at the foot before you do it. Show them what a little fur looks like now.
Yep.
Okay, so there it is. It's a nice blue, right? And the concept is she's going to turn it into a frost giant blue. So here we go. And what color is now? Which silver is this? This is the brighter one?
This is the brighter silver.
The brighter silver, okay.
So I want it to have a level of frosting on it. And you can see that this is a larger surface. So the same technique.
Look at that.
Does not have to be limited to fine details. And, you know, the fact that it's more here is what I'm going for because the light will hit it here and show up that frostiness.
Frosty. On a frost giant, gee.
And you can see here how just a very light effect hits all the sharp points.
Right.
And gives you that sheen.
Look at that. I'm telling you, in person it looks so much better. You got to come by tomorrow. I keep saying it, and I'll keep reminding you through the show. I'm like that. I know a lot of you can't see it right now because it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1:30. But when you see this on the playback, it's amazing. I remind you, tomorrow from 10 to 2, 4 hours, she will be here. Come and ask questions. Come and take a look at the miniature. It's simply amazing.
So I have given it that frosty look. So what I will do with
this, 35 seconds, 40 seconds maybe?
And it's really defined all of that fur. And what I'll do is I will give this a blue tone wash over the top to settle into all of the crevices. And that silver will lift it through that wash.
That looks really neat. I like that.
And then what I can do once I've put that wash on is use a glaze.
Okay, glaze. Let's talk about a glaze because wash and a glaze, two totally different things.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about those real quick.
Okay, so you have your standard paint, standard formulation. A wash is very, very diluted so that it just settles into your crevices. A glaze is between the two. It's more transparent, but it is not as thick as a standard paint. So it's learning how to mix your paint and dilute it so that when I put the dark blue tone over it with the wash, I can go back in and where I've got like these 2 bits of silver here, I can go in with a glaze in a lighter blue to lift up that blue tone between those two pieces of silver.
Right. You heard it here first. I'm not going to do that. Fiona's going to do that.
And it's one of those techniques that's fiddly, it's extra, and if you're doing it on a standard 28 millimeter figure, no. It's better on the larger figures.
Although I've seen some of your figures, and I have seen that amount of detail.
Yes.
Let's not kid ourselves. It's not that she hasn't done it, all right? It's just that it's something, it's that going the extra step.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like, do you want something that you're going to put on the tabletop? Is it your primary character, or is this display or competition? How much work do you want to put in it?
remember, we've talked about that. And like I said, I mean, one of the greatest compliments I ever got was from Duncan Rhodes when he told me that this is a nice quality tabletop. He saw it on the table when we went over to Texas, and I mean, that's the greatest compliment I've ever gotten. I mean, the guy's amazing. If you've ever seen any of his work, it's simply amazing. And you know, a compliment from him, from Fiona, someone like that, that's really good, because to be honest with you, that's all I'm going for, is if somebody can look at it and say, hey, that looks nice, I'm good.
And you know, one of the things that I tend to say
yes, look at
is this is a person who has worked to the limit of the ability of the product, because sometimes you have paints that are thick and you're not sure how to dilute them, or you don't have the right size brush, or no one has shown you how to do a technique. So when I say those kinds of things, I acknowledge that you have done really well, but let's work on getting you the next level. So if you ever hear me say, you know, that's really worked to the best of the ability, it's because given the parameters that you have, that's awesome. It is not in any way designed to be a put down or a negative. It's like, damn, you really worked to the limit of the ability of that paint, that brush, that miniature.
Yep.
Because sometimes the miniatures are getting a little fuzzy.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know.
Oh, so let me tell you, and point in fact, when I sat down with my big old tree on, because I wanted to really do this tree, I'm only able to do one of them because that was my goal. It's for something special. And I sat down, I started dirt brushing, and Fiona says, okay, well, that looks good, but let's try this. And what I did was I didn't even bring paints. I purposely went and bought all the paints because I was talking to her about, this is the paint scheme. Yep. This is what I want to do. And I know that she would guide me to the right colors. And some of the colors I was like, really? That color? Amazing the way it just turned out. And in my mind, she was able to interpret into the paint colors what I saw in my mind's eye. Because that's something that you don't learn until, I think it's something that you develop as you go. I think it's like photography or real painting, where the more you do it, the more familiar you become with the techniques, how colors blend together. Because I layer. I'm not really, anybody who knows me that knows that I paint, I go primer, base, wash, done. I don't even dry brush because I'm like, every blue moon maybe, but it's primer, base, wash, done. In this one, it was primer, then it was highlight, then it was paint, the base color, then it was wash, then it was dry brush. I'm gonna tell you, I have not done that in forever. I'm like, this takes too long, but I thank you because it showed me that those one pieces, like you said, the one piece, that's when you want to work on it. It took me, I mean, I was here, what, 5 hours. I'm not feeling this. It took me about 5 hours and then about another hour at home to finish it. So yes, it took me 6 hours, but I think it looks amazing. Yeah, it's cool.
And that's the thing, when you know the techniques, it's so quick, it's so much fun. And I mean,
that looks awesome.
When I was here last time, I did the
look at that.
Now this spear here, I don't know if it can focus on it. That two-tone effect. Basically, there's the spearhead and then there's a wrapping around it. Now the spearhead and the wrapping is a slightly different color than the body of the staff, the spear, sorry. And that was just one single coat with a speed paint. It automatically did that. Wow.
And you got to see this. I mean, you can kind of see it there.
Yeah.
But you really have to see us. Maybe definitely bring that one tomorrow so people can see it. Because that's amazing. That's a speed paint. It did all that.
Did all that on the spear.
Wow. And you drive, and that was primered the same color?
This was straight out of the packaging.
The pre-primer. Wow, nice. I love the colors that the highlights and everything there.
And all of this, one coat with the
That's the speed paint too?
Yeah.
I tell you, I've used it a couple times. I've been amazed, but you didn't do anything else to it.
Did not do anything else to it.
Wow.
And you can't really see the face too much there, but the face, it has the eyes and the mouth features in there.
Yeah.
It's really
see,
tiny.
You have to come and see it tomorrow.
And then you've got like all the muscle in here, and that's the speed paint.
Wow, let me tell you something. I love the speed paints. The speed paints are just amazing.
Now, I talk speed paint because it's Army Painter, but Vallejo has express paint. And
that's what it's called, express paint?
Yep, they call it express paint. Citadel call it contrast.
Right, the contrast, which I've used. I've told you guys about those too.
But yeah, they all do the same kind of thing. But
it's perfect. Let me tell you something. A lot of this, my favorite, yes. I mean, everybody's got a favorite, right? My favorite color is purple. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Okay, well, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. But not everybody's favorite color is purple. It should be, but it's not.
But it's like, I wear pinks, I wear blues, I wear greens.
Exactly. I mean, look at me in gray. How dare I? But my sunglasses are purple. But look, the dragon's got purple in them, right? Okay, but that's not good. What I'm getting at is, so the colors, a lot of it's about color. Vallejo's got some really pretty, bright, very pigmented paints. These are bright, but they're not quite as much pigment because they're like a blend. Yep. The Army Painter's got a great set of colors, and it's about the colors. Like, you can look at 5 different golds from 5 different companies, and they're all different, which is awesome because now you don't have to use the same gold color on everything. Right? Exactly. Or you don't have to go mixing. Well, I want this one a little darker. Well, I want this one a little brighter. Okay, so I use, and by the way, you can use all these paints on one miniature. They blend. They're all acrylics.
Yep.
They all blend really well together. Trust me, been there, done that. Because I want this purple, and I want this blue, and I want that white.
Yep. Absolutely. All the brands can work together, and absolutely have fun with it.
Absolutely.
Do bright stuff. A lot of the pre-primed, ready out of the packaging, turn it over on the back, and there's the picture, and it's like, it's brown.
Why did I do that? I mean, I would love to see somebody. Okay, if you guys are listening out there, when you do your miniatures on the back packaging, paint them so they're bright and eye-catching.
Yeah.
Because everything, you're right. The miniatures are awesome, and the people that painted them are amazing. But they always go. It's almost like a restaurant where they don't want to put too much spice or not enough spice. They put this, and food kind of, it's like bland. And then you have pepper, and you have this. While at home, we're spice monsters. We got all these spice, right? There you go. Help us out. Put some color in there.
And I have the tendency, I never paint things the colors that it is on the back of the packaging.
I ain't never seen it.
Oh,
I ain't never seen that yet.
I have to say, I have broken that rule.
What?
Yeah.
What did you do? Tell us about this.
A couple of months ago, partner was like, "Oh, I'm running a game. It's 10 minutes. Can you paint this bulle?" What? It's like, I don't want it to be just gray. Okay. Standard colors on the back, right? I guess. Okay. 10 minutes, handed it over. It was painted. Yeah, I'm like, it's not fancy, it's not pretty, but it's painted on the table. And I'm looking at it today, and I'm like, well, it needs a wash, it needs a highlight, it needs a detail.
The wonderful thing about that is you can do that later on.
Yes.
Now, see, that's another thing. Remember something. You paint, you primer it. You can play with it. Then you base it. You can play with it. You can detail it, wash it, and then come back and dry brush it.
Yep.
And there you go.
Take your time with it. The paints are forgiving. If you really don't like it and it's dried, get a little bit of cotton ball, wrap it around the end of a toothpick, dip that in some water, rub it, take that off, and redo it. No one knows what this is supposed to look like until they see it.
That's right.
So while I'm like, oh, check that. Oh, that's bad. People are like, wow, that's really cool. How did you get all those shiny colors?
See,
That's how
I'm telling
you
you,
do it.
people, everybody has goblin in them. Did you hear that? Shiny. Everybody goes for the shiny. So don't tell me about goblins. Everybody's got goblin in them.
And back in the day, I wanted to do something that was a red gold. I wanted a specific red tone gold. No one was making it at the time, so I'm like, okay, squirt of red, squirt of gold, mix it around, and that looks good. And used it and painted it.
There you go.
Now, because everyone's like, ooh, look at all these metallic colors, I can pick it off the shelf and use it. But it's like, never be afraid to make your own colors. And hey, it can be awesome, or it can be like, no, I don't think so. And always make sure that you make a record of what you're doing with the color.
Oh, yes, that's the worst thing.
Yep.
To make the perfect color and not remember how you did it 3
Yep.
months later when you get back to something.
And again, the color wheel. We all know.
Jason goes, you're going to turn into a goblin, John. I am not. Where's your shinies? I mean, mind your business. Let Fiona talk. What's wrong with you?
Because, if you remember your 3 primaries, red, blue, and yellow,
Yep.
and they make the various colors, and it's like, okay, I've got 1 drop of red and 1 drop of blue, and it made this awesome purple, but which red? Which
That's
blue?
it. Make sure you write down, and sometimes it's not enough to just write down the number, the name. Write down the product number.
Yep.
Uh,
Or like, okay, I like glistening saw. I like that because that's a specific Army Painter brand color that has a little bit of gloss put in there. So it stays looking wet. So I can use that red. I know that it dries a certain color. Now, if I put a little bit of a metallic blue with that, ooh, I'm going to get that shiny, wet lavender look.
there we go.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, I'm looking at your palette. You never did talk about that and use it,
Now, with this palette,
Now we're going to talk about the palette.
yes. Now, let's see. Here we go. All right. Ooh, I've got a lot of paint on my brush.
I wanted to see this. Okay, so there you go.
The idea is that you just take it off. You have raised bits.
Don't these raised bits, you put them on there.
Yep. That's just hot glue.
Hot glue, and you
You
use
can
that
use
for it.
PVA.
Okay.
All right. So,
And this is actually just like a small baking pan.
It's a 1/8 cookie sheet.
Now, what is this, black primer?
Just black primer, spray can. All
So
right.
nothing special, nothing fabulous. It's just some technique something that they're doing now. Look at that. Okay, so then
Okay, so now I've got
oh, and it
little
kind of
enough
shows you.
paint.
Look at that.
on there that I could go and dry brush it. And you see I'm only getting a little bit of
When you kind
color
of see
there.
what now the idea, and I'm just going to kind of throw this out there and tell me if that would be right. So let's say that the color I'm doing is on this blue. I could have put some of that blue on these raised parts, let it dry, and then come back and dry brush over it so I can see what it actually will look like,
Well,
right?
That's why I have this side.
Oh well. What do I know? See, she's already 2 steps ahead of me.
All right, so I've got all these textures here,
Right.
so that I can be like, okay, I want to see what this looks like. So
I'm gonna go stand over here in the corner now.
So-
She got me. Okay.
I
What can I
can
tell you?
take a little bit of this,
Which is a shiny gold.
and let's say I had painted a color on here,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, I want to see what this would look like as a color
All right.
on the texture. So you can see that the silver that I have still on there has come through. But yeah, I don't like that, so I'll try a different color.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
I like that. That's really neat.
and these here,
Yeah, what are those?
it's air dry clay, Sculpey, and fondant templates. So you roll out your Sculpey, press these baking fondant templates, and once you do it, don't use them for baking, onto it, peeled it off, baked it, and then glued it on here and primed it.
Baked it in the oven?
Yep.
Just in a regular oven?
Yep.
But there you go. So in
Now-
case you're wondering how to make this,
Yep.
I just told you.
I mean, there are some awesome texture plates out there at different price points, but it's not the textures that I wanted. I'm picky.
There you go. In the end, just whatever you like. It's
Yeah.
like the colors of the paints and the miniatures that you buy. It's all
Now-
what do I like?
There is a guy out there who does YouTube videos, and he has all random pieces of Warhammer left over that he glued in the bottom of a full-size cookie
yes.
sheet.
So that's what that was all about.
Yeah.
That's what he was
primed it,
doing.
And that's what he does.
He-
That looks
I
good.
started watching and I kind of ran off. You know,
Yeah. I have short time.
I saw some shiny things or something.
Yeah.
It's the goblin in me. You're right, Jason. I may be turning into a goblin.
So yeah, this is where you're going back to what works for you.
Right.
And I understand that people feel that working with paper towel takes too much of the suspension or the liquid of the paint off the paint.
So couldn't you use a wet palette for that?
No.
No?
A wet palette would dilute it too much.
Right, because it's wet. I got you.
Yeah.
You want it to stay dry. You want it to be dry. Okay, forget I even said that.
But, it's really just what works for you.
Look at
And,
that. Okay.
a dry palette, some people find easier than the paper towel. And,
How do you feel about it now, since you've used both?
I prefer the paper towel because I've got a lot of years of experience using it.
Right.
And I know to get my paintbrush wet when it gets too dry, but not too wet. And I know how to judge that. But I love this concept of the dry palette, especially the textures, when I'm wanting to check what a color would look like, because I can put a wash on this and it will settle in there,
And then,
put my base color on there, and then do the dry brush and go, yeah, I don't like that. So I like the textures. And this one I find is like, that's a little bit too much for me. Because I'm like, oh, let me wipe it off on here. But each person has.
I like that.
own
I might try this because
viewpoint.
I might try the whole texture thing because I like
Yeah.
that. I like this. I'm one of those that I hate when it goes, oh, that's not what I wanted. But this would let you
Yep.
put it on. You can, and like she said, put your primer,
Yep.
base coat it, and you don't have to base coat a huge part, just a little part. Base coat it, wash it.
Yep.
Then do your dry brush and see what the finished product looks like. If you're happy with it.
Yeah.
And I think the different textures, I'll tell you, I know that's one of the questions probably out there. Why all those different textures? And I'll let you answer.
Okay.
I have an idea why, but
All these different textures. So I have cobblestones over here. And what that does is it gives me no, they're just flaring too much. Cobblestones give me the effect of armor. So it's a broad space separated from the next one. And then the sharp brick gives me, if I have a sharp area,
like a sword.
such as stones or a sword, I can try it out there. The lace is for like the detail, like this kind of thing. And then I have the bark over here because if you have bark or if you have anywhere that has stripes of something,
Right.
you can do it there. And then I have the uneven natural stone brick. So that way I can do
Scales, maybe?
Scales, and I can do it a different color at the edge, fade out
Oh,
the transition.
gotcha. Okay.
And then this one is just a random like filigree, but it's a large size so that if I have something that has a curved shape and I want to highlight it, I can see what that looks like.
There you go. There it is. I think that's just amazing.
Now I have to say that I did have this at home, but I think you can get them for like $6 to $10 on Amazon. I already had a hot glue gun, already had the Sculpey. I had to buy the fondant things, but they were like $7 came next day.
Well, by the way, and listen, if you really want to go even less than that, aluminum. The aluminum pans that they saw at Walmart with the plastic cover, just use that. You're not going to bake it. You're literally just using it as a palette.
Yep.
So there you go. That's
absolutely,
doable.
If this works for you and lets you choose your colors more effectively, it's worth every penny.
I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this.
And because these texture plates, they're actually rectangles. They only did this size section. So if you find that there's one that you prefer to use, you could make it that whole piece, and then you have a little portable one to carry around with you.
That's nice. Very nice.
So,
all right. Well, I think that's great. I think we Wow, that's a lot of information. You know, sometimes we don't really tell you a lot, but it's a lot. It really is. And if you're really interested and it's something that you want to look at further, she'll be here tomorrow working on this. She's got a workshop, and Fiona's all here and there. You can always stop by. She's always willing to talk painting. Trust me.
I will sit there and I'll be painting something,
Mm-hmm.
and someone will go, "Oh, hey, can you show me how to do X and Y?" And I'm like, "I have a training figure right here. Let's try it."
She does. I've seen that happen. I have seen it happen with my own eyes. So, well, thank you for coming. That was
You're welcome.
awesome.
I always
You
love
are
coming
awesome. So listen, that's it for today. So whether you're a professional painter and you learn one little thing, or you're a beginner and we threw so much at you, you're like, wow, step by step, one step at a time.
Yep.
And you'll get to there. So this is John
This
with
is
Fiona
Fiona
from John's Dungeon Corner. And as always, may the road rise up to meet your feet and may all your adventures be successful. We will see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Don't forget the 4th of July, because it's buy 3, get 1 free till 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock on the 4th, buy 3, get the 4th free. I'll see you then. Until next week, have a wonderful weekend. And happy 4th of July.
Be safe.